Literally, it is a room full of the most significant leaders, or many of the most significant leaders in our state.
Everybody who is in a position of power to make change, whether it's through business, whether it's through policy, legislatively, was all in one place for 4 days. And to be able to open up what some of those conversations are and make it accessible to more people was really exciting for Detroit Public Television.
What started, I think, as a getaway conversation among leaders has turned into a very, very significant effort.
It was very much about making a statement that we're a different kind of public television station from maybe what you've known in the past. And we're really interested in this concept of public service and public conversation around issues of importance.
National speakers, local speakers, important issues. An awful lot of organizations pivot off of the Mackinac Conference every year. So it's a very important date on many folks' calendar.
The idea back in 2011 to do a free live stream seems, sort of the order of the day today. But back then, most people weren't using Netflix. They weren't thinking of streaming. So it wasn't really even in the zeitgeist to begin with. So you have to give credit to Rich Homburg and to Sandy Barua and the folks that just thought from the beginning, before Facebook Live, before all of these really normal streaming services we enjoy today had even come on the scene.
Looking at the conference about 12 years ago, we thought that there was a real opportunity to amplify its importance. About 1,800 folks go to the Mackinac Conference every year. And in many organizations, 1 or 2 or 3 folks go from the organization, and maybe another 10 folks wish they were there. Or maybe there's a speaker that the entire organization would benefit from. So in our mindset around how do we best serve, we've got a terrific production team. We know the issues. We know how to build a very strong engagement plan. We approached the chamber and said, what if we amplified the Mackinac Conference and shared it with everybody, with all media outlets? What if we used to use the phrase COPE, create once, publish everywhere.
At that time, when I had just started working with them, was starting to try to expand their public affairs reach and expand their local programming with more journalism and conversation.
So the idea that it is, as it is now, is take this conference that was a little closed off and give access to everybody there. The first threshold resistance you're going to find from someone putting on a conference is that if they stream it, perhaps they'll get fewer attendees.
So our proposition to the chamber was, let's cover the Mackinac Policy Conference in much the same way as you would cover a political convention.
In the end, what we found is what the baseball owners found when radio started, is opening up the game, in this case, the conference, to many more viewers, makes it more in demand.
For the chamber, I think it's actually been a boon to the conference, because the conference was sold out every year after that, once we started broadcasting it.
Cover the conference, build an anchor desk, and sort of take each of the sessions and think, the phrase inside the building is often, who wishes they were there? Important session on an important topic. The world needs to understand it. How do we share that with folks? And so that became sort of the mantra for our work on the policy conference. As a speaker comes on and talks about DEI issues, or where work is headed, or critical environmental issues, or the governor's making an important statement, who would like to be able to have the opportunity to tap into that? That was a more novel idea 10 years ago. Today, obviously COVID has changed many things, but we always looked at how do we maximize the value of the state's biggest leadership conference.
In the 10 years since we started, there's been so much change in the digital landscape, particularly in the broadcast landscape. And digital is such a big factor now.
We've streamlined it throughout the years, but really the intent continues and remains the same of access to conversations and decision-making that will impact all of us who live in the state of Michigan.
First couple of years we did it, we would have to knock on the door of other media outlets in town and say, would you like access to it? And, they had questions, how can we trust this? It's public television. Of course you can trust it. But the point is, now that's become, we'll get a call from the newspaper or from a TV station. Hey, where's the embed code? You guys are covering the conference again this year. So it's become a tool for many. We also look at organizations and their interest in sharing it. Who better than public television to say, here's something important. How do we share it with the entire community? And this was a new way of thinking. And, the public television station wants to capture our conference and share it. Early on, I think some of the chamber staffers were, why are we doing that with them? And maybe some of our folks are, what are we doing? And now the confidence inside of both buildings has grown.
If I wanted to talk to the governor or the secretary of state, if I wanted to talk to Matt Cullen from the Riverfront Conservancy and, the head of Skillman, it would take me probably 3 months to set up all of those, individual interviews. But to be able to kind of sit in one space and have people come, and then we just sit there for 10 minutes, 12 minutes, and we can do more of a long form interview. That's really exciting for me. And it gets me thinking about what are some of the stories that we should be working on. So I look at, actually, when I'm sitting there, I look at who's talking to who in the room. I know it might sound kind of strange, but I sit in the parlor. And so I'm able to see what side conversations are happening, if they're happening out there. And then that gets me to thinking, oh, that's interesting. I need to find out about this. So it's actually pretty crucial to my news gathering as well.
It's a little more of a time to be thinking about our local needs and sort of how do we recover from the pandemic. It was a little more reserved. But the other thing, to watch this was my 24th conference, as I recall. When I started going to Mackinac, it was already well established. It was less diverse. It was more male. There was still a little golf being played. There was still a little those conferences you go to that are like 25% vacation. Today, it is incredibly diverse. It is, a very, very jam-packed, let's say 3 days. And you just go from thing to thing to thing. And so watching the conference develop and the community develop this year was important. A smaller conference, but a little, and this might sound strange, to me, a little more heartfelt. Like we're all really worried about where the world is headed, and we're worried about where Detroit is headed. So there was a little bit more of a little sense of reunion. But perhaps most important, our chamber, chambers tend to be seen as business organizations. And, you could easily suggest for a long time, sort of white guy business organizations. Today, our chamber has embraced diversity at every level. It's really a fabulous organization. And to watch the conference change over the years, to watch Leadership Detroit change the way it has over the years, it's just wonderful.
Even back then, I think we were acting in a way that represented equity without maybe saying it. And that was to take this conference that had been so exclusive and, let's face it, not inexpensive. And we brought it to the masses. So I think that one act just was a masterstroke in opening up those doors and moving ahead toward a world that's more diverse, more informed, and more equitable.
In this day and age of transparency and access, I think that's what we think about a lot as a community, that the Mackinac Policy Conference will continue to need to have this outlet where all can see. So many times it's like, oh, why do you have to go up on an island? Well, why do you have to just sit there and eat shrimp all day? It's not all of that. There's some really substantive conversations that happen, and deal making that doesn't happen on the stage or in a forum. But when you get people together and they're able to talk freely about things, you do get some deals done that maybe it would have taken a much longer time.
It goes back to something that we're struggling to find again, which is civil conversation around important issues and a mutual effort to try to arrive at a consensus on a solution or solutions. And I think, it's having the Mackinac Policy Conference, having that chance for people to get together and going, oh, you're worried about that? So are we. Let's talk about it for 5 minutes, is really, it's fairly unique, I think, in the country. And I think it's something that we can take a great deal of pride in in communicating.
I think there's always a place for the Mackinac Policy Conference, and there's always a place for us to be able to, us or whatever other broadcast outlet, to be able to bring it to people so they can hear for themselves, they can see for themselves, and they can make more informed opinions about policymaking and the things that are happening at a high level in the state of Michigan.
What's our mission? What should public television do? And we were quite literally created to do the things the other guys don't do. We're there to fill the community need. That's the mission of any nonprofit. But quite literally, public television was created to be the media organization that does the things others don't do. Who's going to go to Mackinac and bring that conference to as many people as possible? That's exactly what we should do. And so there's lots of people covering the crisis. We have to cover solutions. We have to cover deeper understanding. And so that's, as an organization, that's what we aspire to do.